OT Life Hacker here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's Q&A for pre-occupational therapy students. Anyone interested in occupational therapy, going into it, starting off occupational therapy, this can also be very helpful for you too. So stay tuned because we are going to go through questions and answers that people have asked me from yesterday, in which yesterday I did a day in the life of a third-year occupational therapy student, OTD student, for one of the Instagram accounts for pre-occupational therapy clubs. And for anyone interested in occupational therapy, pre-OT, check out those sites on Instagram. There's a lot of pre-occupational therapy clubs, and they're awesome for raising awareness on how you can prepare for occupational therapy and other fantastic tips. So and you can also check out my Instagram channel for tips as well. And I featured some of the day in the life of that I did yesterday on my Instagram as well. And my Instagram is just like my name, guys. It's OT, what's that? Life Hacker. OT Life Hacker, guys. Yeah. So you can check me out on Instagram, but also, and you can direct message me if you have questions, but also, guys, that's what YouTube comments are for. Write those comments below. And while you're at it, please do like and subscribe. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. So, you came here for the questions, right? And I'm taking too long to answer your questions. Well, I'm sorry. Let's get into it. So the first question we have is, what does therapy look like for a baby? So yesterday I did a day in the life of which I had shown how I prepared for having an 18-month-old come into the clinic. They were going to work on their gross motor development and postural control. So basically, they were working on being able to hit the next milestones that they are supposed to. So being able to sit up, to stand up, and to eventually walk on their own, crawl. So even crawling, they're not yet there. And for this baby, one of the concerns was that their foot tended to invert, so it would turn inwards, and so they wear a brace for their leg. And because of that, because they wore a brace for a long time, they were delayed in their next developmental milestones for moving around and all the movements that you would see a typical 18-month-old have. So for this child, we're working on that along with the other sensory regulation, I should say. So being able to look when there's a stimuli, meaning some sort of maybe noise or person or sensation, warmth, feeling, they would pay attention to what's going on over there. But this child had challenges with that, so they would hear noises and such and no response to it. So we're working on that as well. And so for this child, because I can't show the clips of the children in action, that would be very wrong. So I can't do that. But on my Instagram channel, I have the toys for all the things that I did with them in that day. And especially note to you all, if you're working with a baby, make sure you set up the environment ahead of time, because you cannot be scrambling around the room unless you're carrying them and moving around, but that might cause them to be dysregulated, meaning they might cry, they might be unhappy. So, and you have a hard time creating a calm environment for them because you're moving around frantically. They can sense that energy of yours. So make sure everything's set up. And what I did with this toddler was, we had gone, we stood, we not crawled, but we went into quadruped, which is they were on all fours, the position for crawling, and also I had them seated without me supporting them behind them, and I had them this time on a movable chair without a back. Well, there was a backing, but I had them seated so that they wouldn't really need to use the backing, and that way their legs were not flat on the ground. Instead, the legs are propped up so that it's kind of like, you know, when you're seated in a chair, your legs are flexed, meaning they're bent and in a 90-degree. And so this was a case for the child, so it required them to work more on their body positioning and sitting up in the chair, using their legs for support. And then I also had them move, which by moving them, their legs will naturally start walking themselves, you know, the precursors to walking, having that motion. And it worked out well, but many times, particularly if the child is new to the environment, they're not used to it, right? So they're getting acquainted with it. So you're working on also the self-regulation. So this child went from the whole session of crying to this session, which was like, we've done 6 sessions so far. This session, they spent maybe 10 minutes crying, and intermittent, you know, in between there'd be periods of crying because they're trying to communicate. And also, so if you want to see more of just actual babies, like when they're just born or when they're maybe like very, very, very young, NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, often, you know, in the hospitals, they have, from what I've been told, they're more, a lot of times you're working on just passive range of motion for them. So you're moving their body for them and you're helping to make sure their systems are regulated. So if you work in neonatal intensive care units, please do share your comments below about what it's like to work with babies for those interested. All right, next question is, does it matter what school you go to? So it depends on what your goals are. If you're talking about should you go to a master's versus a doctorate program, I can make a video on that. I've been answering a lot of questions from others about that, so I very likely will make a video. Stay tuned. If you want to see that video, make sure you like and subscribe. Okay. We don't really, it's based on your preference too. If you're looking, when you're looking for schools, it's really good and really important that you research it yourself to see what you're interested in. What are your interests? So before you even look into schools, maybe you should lay out what your area of interests are. Do you want to work with kids? Are you looking for a program that does a lot of mental health stuff? Then look at the curriculum, look at the research projects, look at what the students are doing. Maybe they have the final projects that the students are working on display for others to see on their website. Check it out, like capstones. Maybe there's the past capstones that you can take a look at and see what the students are doing. And you can also look at the professors' areas of interest and what research they're doing, because you can take it upon yourself, take initiative to work on more projects within your curriculum. It doesn't have to be just what's within the curriculum. You can do research with professors. You can even initiate your own research projects if you're that gung-ho for it, then perfect. And anything else for doesn't matter what school you go to. Really, unless you're talking master's versus doctorate, from my opinion, so unless you're talking master's versus doctorate, and also your area of interest. So if you're really interested in one specialty, then make sure you look if that program specializes in that, and again, all the things I just told you for, professors, research projects, look at those. Because if you are interested in any of the three things I mentioned, master's, doctorate, or specialties, then you will want to do a lot of research in checking what programs you should go into or check for, because otherwise I don't personally know of a reason to choose any particular program. Oh, actually, I take that back. So other things you want to consider for doesn't matter what school is you want to look at also their pass rate and, for the boards. And also, there was one other thing. If it comes to my mind, I will write it in the comments below or in the description box below. So again, also you want to check the description box for what questions I will be answering. If you're kind of like, okay, what's she going over? Check the description box for all the answers, questions that I'll be answering. Any general recommendations for an undergrad? Oh, okay, sorry guys. I just thought of the other answer. So for what doesn't matter what OT school you go to. So when you're planning, also consider what prerequisites that you may qualify for. So the way I had done it when I was planning what schools to go to, I had actually done it based on, okay, so what prerequisites what programs can I apply to at this point? Have I finished all those prerequisites? Do they require GREs? And so how I did it was I applied to a program that I was kind of just filling it out, and I was just getting into applying into prepping for applying for schools, and I thought, okay, well, I fit the prereqs for this program, and it says that if I get the other prerequisites done before I get into the program, if I get accepted, then that's fine. So I'm like, okay, well, I can do that. So I had actually applied for one program because at the time I was able to apply for something. So I'm like, I'll just apply for something. But really, it's the next year that I'll actually be applying for schools. But I thought, just try it out. And I got in, guys. So I started a year ahead of what I thought I would be starting. So keep in mind, if you want to get a head start and you have all those prerequisites, go for it. Apply and see where it takes you, because it took me into a program and I was thinking it would take me into preparing for the other schools. But here I am talking to you guys a year ahead of what I thought I'd be. Okay, next one. Any general recommendations for an undergrad wanting to go to occupational therapy school? Yes. If you have volunteer opportunities while you're in school, take them, especially right now when there's not very many opportunities. And also what you're doing right now in researching through YouTube of other students and even Instagram, checking on, there's a lot of blogs out there for OT students. You can check their blogs, and there's a lot of pre-OT clubs. Check those out. So there's a lot of things that resources that you can look at on how to prepare. And first and foremost is recommendations for undergrads is looking into the schools, making that list right now. And I'll put a link in the description box for one of the videos I have for how to organize your experiences, and also for my tips on getting into OT school, because those you want to take a look at as far in advance as you can. So the moment you realize I want to do OT school, start preparing. You know what I said in the beginning of this video about my recommendations? Let's see, what was it? Recommendations for schools and how to know what schools you want to get into. Start making that list. Start brainstorming, what am I interested in? What schools do I want to apply to? What's my area of specialty? Start looking at all those things for the schools. And if you want a video on more about how to organize what I just said in the second question about what schools, if it matters what schools to apply to, then ask me in the comments below. And again, remember guys, like and subscribe because that helps grow the channel and helps raise awareness to everyone out there who is also in pre-OT and looking for resources. This might be something that can help them too. So share, do your part, share with others. And then, so any more recommendations I have for undergrads? Really, it's the keyword is do your research. If you think this is an area of interest for you, start researching, start volunteering. That's what I did when I was in the public health program and realized I think I want to do OT. I started researching, looking at journal articles for how OT helps, but what supplemented would help really solidify that. Well, what would have helped? Because to be honest, there weren't that many resources for occupational therapy from students at that time. And that's the reason I started this channel, is because at the time when I was searching, there wasn't enough resources for me to really make a solid decision. And so that's why I hope this channel will help provide that information and that support, because there's a lot that you can research a whole bunch of things online, but to really know the knit and grit of OT is through learning from others' perspectives, student perspectives, especially their journeys, because you learn, oh, activity analysis, what the heck is that? I had no idea what that was until I started the program. But if I had seen videos about this ahead of time and seen like, oh, you do a lot of assessments in occupational therapy. Oh, you do a lot of evidence-based research. What is that? What are these precautions that you have to follow if you're doing acute care? A lot of things that I learned are through doing it, but it would have helped if I had seen it, had been forewarned about it through, looking at others' channels or reading about it. So that's why I'm talking about all the things that I would have loved to know about before starting OT in my channel. So for you pre-OT people, this might be a really good avenue for you to explore. Check out my videos because I put a lot of things that I would have loved to know about occupational therapy that I don't see really out there yet. Or at the time it wasn't out there. But I'm so happy to see a lot more people are posting about this on YouTube and Instagram. Probably because they saw the same thing, right guys? Yeah. Okay, so what? Oh, someone said hi. Hi guys. What is your favorite clinical setting? Drum roll! My favorite clinical setting is... Oh, that's a hard one. I am a sponge, and I bet everyone is a sponge where they're like, I love everything. And it is so true. I love it all. But it's also because I haven't really seen everything yet. I haven't seen ones that I really want to see too, which is I want to see the mental health. I want to see what it's like in SNF, in skilled nursing facilities. I take that back. I have seen skilled nursing facilities. Yes, but I haven't done like a whole week or 2 weeks in skilled nursing, which I would love to. But I spent 2 days, I think, in skilled nursing, which that in itself is eye-opening. Take every opportunity you can, guys. Don't discredit anything. So, honestly, so far, nope. I'm like, so far, if I had to choose between the two, I can't. No, I can't. I love, when I get out into the field, I'm going to try to do everything, all the things. And that's probably not the answer you want to hear, not the answer I maybe should be giving or thinking, because you want to have some solidity in what you're going to go into. But I loved my 2 level 2 fieldworks were acute care in the hospital, and then also what I'm doing right now, which is pediatrics. And again, I have a lot of videos on acute care and pediatrics, level 2 fieldworks. So if you're interested in those, take a look on my channel, OT Lifehacker. And I would say for both of them, I want to do both. So I'm honestly thinking that maybe I can do like per diem or find some way that I can do both of them when I get out into the work field. Because what I love about working with kids is, it's true, play pretty much. You learn so much through play, and you are also learning so much through the kids because you are learning how they communicate. That people in general communicate a lot through different ways, and children can't always verbalize what they are thinking, especially babies. So if they're crying, it's because they're crying for something that's not met in their needs, or they're wanting something, or there's something of interest. So you have to be very, very attentive. This really teaches me how to be present, how to be listening, actively listening, even if it's not listening to words, it's listening to what's around me in the environment. So it's a truly humbling experience. And you have children of so many different backgrounds and get to see them. It's kind of like a continuum of care. If your facilities has you work with the same kids throughout the time, that's great. That's how it is here for the clinic I'm at. And so we get to see the continuum of care, and you get to be with them. Well, for me, it's 3 months, right? But if you're an OT, you get to be with them for years. And it's so amazing to see the progress. My OT always talks about how the kids that I'm working with now, she's like, yeah, they've come so far. They used to not have any interest in doing anything, or they used to not be able to move at all. They used to not be able to self-regulate, calm down at all. And it's so crazy because it's like they look like they are able to do everything on their own. They're high functioning now. I mean, meaning they're able to do a ton of stuff. So it's just a blessing to see the things that we can achieve. And again, it's humbling because it reminds us as not older adults, but as adults, that we can do anything. These children are showing us that if we don't let our ego get the best of us and tell us, you can't do that, you can't do this, are you crazy, you don't have enough time for that. No, it's not true. You can do a ton of things if you just let yourself not hate yourself, not beat yourself up. And then also for acute care, I absolutely love that it's fast-paced because it forces me to build on my weaknesses, which is time management is one, because I'm so slow, perfectionistic in everything, and I can't do that. I need to be like, okay, efficiency, get things done well, and quality for the patients. How do you do that? You keep trying, you keep practicing, you keep listening to the patient's needs, and also having everything be planned out. So a lot of what it is in acute care and with kids, you plan it out. In acute care especially, you need to do your chart reviews to see what their precautions are, what the doctor's orders are. So a lot of interdisciplinary communication, meaning you're communicating with a lot of other healthcare professionals and with the parents or the caregivers and the family of the patient and the patient themselves. So a lot of communication goes on in acute care, which is what I really like too. And I like how you kind of get to make your own schedule in a sense, because you go in to see if the patient's ready or not, and you're always on the move. There's no sit down time really, other than doing documentation. So I love the fast-paced environment and working with the other disciplines, because you learn so much. And also it's like I learn absolutely so much. I learn a lot about the medical terminology in acute care. It's incredible. I really, really like that. So I better do it while I'm young, because while my wheels are still turning strong and hard, versus when I have kids and then I'm like going crazy trying to figure everything out with kids, family, all that. Yeah. Okay, so next we have question 5. Do you feel like you have time for yourself, or is majority of your time studying? I feel like I have time for myself. But that is an exception. Not everyone feels that way, and I mean it. A lot of my classmates that we talk about our fieldwork and school in general, it depends on what your regimen is like. But for me, and basically for everyone, you're always encouraged to have time for yourself, stress management. So I would say the way to achieve that, and why I'm able to for myself because of my own the ways that I work, is I try to plan it out. So again, no procrastination, guys. Don't procrastinate. Because if you procrastinate, you feel like you're always working. You feel like you never have time. And even if you're like having time because you're procrastinating, you're like, okay, I don't want to do this right now. I'm too tired. I'm just going to do something else. I'm going to watch a movie. That doesn't feel like your stress management techniques, does it? Not really. It feels like you're feeling guilty. I'll speak from, I know. Speak from experience. You feel like you're guilty because you're not working on your stuff, and you don't feel like you're actually giving yourself any benefits because you just feel guilty the whole time that you're not working on something. And then when it's time to work on it, you feel like you've been working on it the whole time because you procrastinated to the point that you're spending their entire time, no food breaks, no bathroom breaks, no this, that, working on it. So, solution is plan ahead. You're going to have to do that when you get into the work field, so why not plan ahead now, guys? So do a little bit at a time if you can, or whatever works best for you, apply those strategies. In the beginning, you can give yourself a break and figure out and think, okay, I am figuring out what my plan is, what my schedule is, what works for me in studying regimens. And then when you find your niche, bam, stick with that and you'll be golden. So mine's again was plan ahead, have little breaks in between, and have committed time, actual devoted time to, ooh, I'm going to do some exercise here. Ooh, I'm going to go to the park. Ooh, I'm going to go for a run. Ooh, I'm going to watch a movie. Ooh, I'm going to meditate. Ooh, everything. Okay, next we have number 6 is, how would you compare the workload of OT school to undergrad? Ooh, good question. Yes, very good question, because it's a lot more in that you have to discipline yourself. You won't always get reminders of like, don't forget this is due, don't forget this is due. It's on you to make a schedule and to adhere to that schedule and know when your due dates are. No one will be telling you. You are much more on your own. So I think that's the hardest part of graduate school, is that you're going to have a lot of classes concentrated in the same thing but slightly different. And you're going to have a much higher workload, and it's going to be more intensive too, more high task demand, meaning you're going to have more challenging tasks, a lot more of research, working on projects with others. So you're going to have to, in OT school especially, you do a lot of teamwork. So you're going to have to collaborate with others and take a lot of initiative to head start your projects, because you may think, oh, I've got a lot of time now, I'm just going to hang out with people all the time, but then bam, it hits you and you're out of time, guys. I know that well. Woo. So let's see. Next, number 7 is, what steps did you take to get into the OT program? So I pretty much mentioned that in the first 3 questions. What steps I took were, I started feeling like, oh, you know what? I actually think I want to go into OT. And so I started volunteering. I searched around everywhere I could and volunteered. Do not give up on looking for places to volunteer, because I've said it so many times. I'm like, I can't find anything. There's no luck. And people are like, what do you mean? There's so many places out there. And I'm like, I know. And I called these places. But in reality, I didn't think it at the time, but it is kind of excuses, because while I'm saying all this, I could be using that time to keep looking up other places. Heck, there can be telehealth in other states, guys. You don't have to be concentrated on local anymore. You can go for telehealth during these times. You can ask for telehealth, and you can even tell them that, with what's currently going on, I'm not having an easy time finding places to volunteer. And I even reached out to the AOTA Association and to my local occupational therapy associations to see if there's volunteer opportunities. And there actually were some opportunities, and I took them up. Also, you can probably go to Student Doctor Network or something. There's a lot of I'm pretty sure there's a lot of forums that you can reach out to ask for volunteer opportunities. And you can even ask me, and maybe I can, on the AOTA, I can ask the AOTA if they have any volunteer opportunities they know of for students looking for pre-OT students looking for that. That would be really helpful. So if you want that, let me know, guys. Write in the comments below. I can ask in the AOTA forum for you guys. And then, so the other questions. And with the volunteering, I organized all my experiences. And I also gave you guys that tip for how to organize your experiences in another video. And I'll put that link in the description box below for you. What else did I do? I also, to help prepare for getting to the OT program. So to answer your question, because that's going to take a whole spiel of time, I'm going to put those links in the description box. Check out my other videos, the How I Got into OT School video, because that is basically everything I did, exactly what I did. And not to toot my own horn, but I actually got into, as I said in the beginning, I was just applying for the sake of applying because I wasn't yet totally ready to apply for schools. I was still figuring it out. And so I applied for a school that I could apply to. And that was the only one I could apply to. So I'm like, I might as well test it out and just use this as a tester, if anything. And I applied, and I ranked for the application. I was the top 5 for wanting to be interviewed. That's what they had told me. And when they called and told me that I got in for an interview, and they also said they don't call everyone, which I imagine that'd probably be hard to call everyone. They usually send a letter or email, and they sent me a letter too, but they called me first to let me know that, hey, congratulations, we loved your application, we would love to interview you, can you do on these times? And granted, okay, let me also tell you, I submitted my application on the very, very last day because I was late to finding that, I can apply for this. And so within I was very late to apply. I was very late. Late meaning on the very, very last day. And so I applied on the very last day, but fortunately I got in on the very first day for interviewing. The very first, not just the first day, but in the morning slot. There's morning and afternoon, and I got the morning slot. So I also, after the interview, I received another call saying, congratulations, you were one of the top 5 candidates, and we would love for you to come to our program. And we don't call everyone, so we would love if you'd be interested, please let us know. And I was like, well, I didn't apply to any other ones, so yeah, sure. But really, it was like, oh, that's awesome. But so check out those tips in my description box, because in my links for the description box, because they really, really, truly help me. And the only reason, and I'm not one to toot my horn, but the reason I'm saying that is because those tips really helped. And if they helped me a lot, I'm sure they could help you guys a lot. So, and also, let me add one other thing. The thing with these tips is that these are also tips that are kind of like, I learned these tips from my significant other, who is a physician. So these tips that I got are from him, who was applying for residency, applying for medical school. And so these in a sense, are kind of medical school and medical residency, how to get into tips. So clearly they work well. If you use this for medical school too, good, because these are medical school and medical residency, how to get into tips. And the last question number 8 is, question number 8 is there anything about OT school that you expected to be easy, but it turns out it was difficult? That's a brilliant question. That's a really, really good question. Gosh, this is gonna take me some time to think about. Oh, okay. So, being that I have a public health background, I was thinking, the research is gonna be really easy, and I could do that. Oh, heck no. It never gets any easier, I feel. When you have to deal with writing papers and with the footnotes and everything, and following the APA format, that's always going to be a challenge because there's always going to be different ways of interpreting how you should do it this way and that way. And to be honest, I don't think that this is, well, you can tell me how you interpret it, but what I found interesting from public health and from occupational therapy, it doesn't always correlate or connect in that for occupational, well, not necessarily just occupational therapy, but for each professor, I found that the way they grade papers, the way that they score your APA format, it's kind of, I shouldn't say it's different, but it is. I've noticed that a lot, and if anyone else can chime in on this, I've noticed that the APA format, when I follow that based on the guidance I've received from my professors in the public health program and for my capstone in the public health program, I followed those formats, and then come to find out in the the occupational therapy program, that's not how you write it. I'm like, oh, but that's APA format. And then it's not necessarily because, that's public health to occupational therapy. I've noticed among other professors that sometimes they don't go the same. It's not the same for the way they grade the APA format. So that's something to be careful of when you go into school. And you'll probably find that for those of you in undergrad who are doing that, doing research and doing APA format or even MLA format, you probably find, there's differences between professors. So chime in in the comments below. And then, let's see, I knew that anatomy and physiology and neuro anatomy were gonna be hard, and bingo, I was right. Nope, never gets easier for me. Still hard. And I thought psychosocial might be easy because for my undergrad in public health, I did a lot of mental health stuff. So I was like, I got this. I can understand it. It's always gonna be challenging. You always have the knowing the different diagnoses, schizophrenia and all of that. We had to learn the diagnoses and how to diagnose the diagnosis tree in our classes. And yeah, that was challenging because it again is medical terminology that in occupational therapy you will need to know medical language and the medical model too, so that you can understand how all the different disciplines work. That too was a challenge. What else? We've got public speaking is always going to be a challenge for me. Working in groups, always a challenge because everything's so dynamic. Those are probably the main things. Coursework wise, I already touched on them. Oh, pediatrics. So you have, well, at least we had pediatric classes and older adult physical disability. Oh, I know. So one that I found challenging was that I thought, oh, I've worked with people with dementia before and Alzheimer's disease. I could work well with people with that. Oh, it's hard because what I had to remind myself is that in occupational therapy, you're not trying to correct their behavior. You're working with what they have and maintaining what they have. So for people with dementia, you aren't trying to teach them new things. You're trying to just work with the stage they're at and not necessarily build new skills because it might not be something they can remember or process. So that was probably I feel like that might have been the biggest challenge for me, is working with people with dementia, because I thought, oh, I probably can work well with them because I've worked with them before, but there were challenges in reminding and teaching myself, okay, remember, you're not teaching them something new. You're working with where they're at. So those, there's all that I talked about are things that you'll learn in occupational therapy, and that's why I mentioned it, even if I didn't necessarily say oh, that was something I thought would be easy, but it was hard. I thought it was hard. So I shared all the things that I thought was hard too, just to give you guys a bonus on what to expect when you go into OT school. Alright, so thank you guys all. Like and subscribe, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.